Welcome to Market and Main, where we talk everything marketing. I'm your host, Mike Peters, and today on episode 2, we have Neil Turner here as a guest on the show. Neil Turner is the owner of River City Moving. He is a band member of a band that he will tell us about, and also the owner of NC Turner Photography. Welcome to the show, Neil.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks.
Good. Very thrilled to have you here. I already, we talked a little bit up front, and, you already told me that we have a few things in common. One of them is that we both know Germany and Austria. So tell me a little bit about your experiences, for you, going to a foreign country like Germany.
Yeah.
What was your take on that? I know the other way around, right? I'm from Germany, came here when I was over 30 already, and I had a very mind-blowing experience. Tell me about yours.
I think the grass is always greener, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, my grandmother, she's from Berlin. Her name was Helga. She actually met my grandfather in World War II. So he was a GI, and she was, I think she was 15.
Oh,
so
really?
They met, kind of wrote or whatever for about 4 or 5 years. So around 1950, she came to the States, and they started a family in Baltimore. But they got divorced, and so I never really got to know her well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was one of those, for me, going to Germany was the motherland, literally. That's where my grandma's from.
Heritage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it meant a lot to me. I mean, I just went all over the country. I loved it. I really did. Southeast Germany was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So getting down there in Bavaria, absolutely beautiful. Went to Garmisch, up to the top of the Zugspitze, and I was like, man, this is beautiful. I loved my time there, honestly, and I did. I mean, one of my rental car was a Benz, and I got to hit the Autobahn, and
that's nice.
Had some fun.
Yeah, I think it's more fun when you're like, oh my god, I can drive as fast as possible or as I can, or if I feel confident doing,
Mm-hmm.
without getting pulled over. But for me, I thought I would miss it, but I don't. I really no. It's driving over there is so exhausting, especially if you have a faster car and you go 200 kilometers, 250 kilometers an hour. But then you have all those slow trucks, right? So people try to pass them, and then you have to basically just throw the anchor. So, and that if you do that for 6 hours or so, then this is my perception. Also, a lot of other Germans that I know that now live here, they're like, you know what? I don't miss it. It's so relaxing to drive a car in the United States
Without the struggle.
Well, it's not. It's the struggle, and it's also it's permanent. When you drive here, it's more permanent. Traffic is flowing. In Germany, where it's oh yeah, there's no speed limit. Oh, give it your all, right? You do that, but then other people not stop you, but slow you down again. Then you accelerate again,
right.
Brake, accelerate. That's so
Back and forth. I see.
Plus, if you do 250 kilometers an hour, what is about, I think, 150 miles ish, maybe a little bit less than that, right? If you do that, and there's an 80 kilometer an hour, truck pulling out, and it's 1 kilometer an hour faster than the other truck on the other lane, and we only have 2 lanes, no shoulder on the left side, right? That's basically, as you're that's 55 miles an hour, by the way. So you're doing 150. The other one is you're still driving 100 miles difference, right? Now, if you drive into that truck, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Probably underneath or whatever. So the concentration that has to come with it, in my experience, is just so much that after 6 hours of driving, you're I want to go to bed. I'm so exhausted. I can't do it anymore. But then on the other hand, here, I do 12 hours of driving at I don't know, I didn't say that, 85 or something, So I arrive at my destination. I'm still kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm exhausted because it was 12 hours, but
Sure.
Nothing near what it would be, in Germany.
Yeah. My experience, gosh, it was so different for me because I was coming up out of Switzerland and going through southern Germany, through the Black Forest, and it was just beautiful. A lot of times I was on little roads that took me through little village towns, which were everything you looked at was a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
It was just perfect. And when I did get on the Autobahn, it was really going from city to city. So I don't know. It was kind of liberating for me because over here, I mean, I remember I was in Asheville, North Carolina, and I was accelerating. I was following my GPS, and then like it's like, oh, your turn is coming up. So I needed to get over to the exit, but there were slow cars beside me. So I had to accelerate to get around them. And when I did, I accelerated 15 miles over the speed limit. Cop got me. Reckless driving, $350 ticket.
Oh, wow.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was so happy to not be worried about that.
I mean, I get it. I get it. It's also like, oh my God, like when I took my wife the first time, she was like, we had also like a Mercedes as a rental car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not even like a super fast one or whatever. And then she did like 135. It's like she acted like she was cool, but like I could tell. I still have a picture of her. She was like
nervous,
not nervous. I'm just like fun,
Oh
It's
yeah,
like because it was like a straight line. We went from where I'm from Dortmund to like Holland, like the Netherlands.
Oh, cool.
Where it's like everything is flat and there's no curves and you just go straight. You do that at that speed. You're like, wow, that's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you go south a little bit more, with all the mountains and everything, like nothing is a straight line. Everything is a curve,
and you can't really go super fast either. It's not safe,
right?
And we didn't.
That's the thing. Like there's like stretches where you can, but that's really just like slow patches, like little. Well, there's like 10 kilometers where you can do that, right? But then the rest of it, you have to be careful, otherwise you're off the road. Especially like the road, like even the highways, right? They're very narrow. There's no shoulders on the left-hand side mostly. It's very different experience than here where everything is so wide, and then you have another lane basically as a shoulder and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very different. So, but I have to say this, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. Like I said, way more relaxing here than over there. But as you said, grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
and no matter which country, the United States or in Europe, driving, I love to drive. No matter where I'm going, it's really pleasing for me. When I was in the band and we were driving all over the country, other guys were miserable. I was like, you know what? I don't mind it. I like seeing the desert and the mountains and
oh yeah, I love it.
It's beautiful.
So we just came back, not just, but like a few months ago. We went from here all the way through the Rocky Mountains to California to like Sequoia National Park in an RV. That was the second year in a row that we went out west. This was like the furthest yet. It was almost 3 weeks, or I think even like 2 days more. So 3 weeks and 2 days. I loved the drive. I drove the whole thing. My wife never touched the steering wheel. I did the whole thing. But the change of like the environment, it's going from like super green grass in Kansas. I mean, there was not much else, but that to like then, like the Rocky Mountains, and then from there you go into the deserts.
Isn't that cool?
The color is changing, and like this, I don't know what it is, but like for some reason, like this color, like the color scheme in the desert, especially when you go into direction of like Moab and all those like red rocks, and
yeah.
So it's basically like blue sky, red rocks, and then like maybe some clouds, right? And that's it. It's just like I love it. This does something to me, even though not sustainable to be there all the time, but I just love this like color scheme. It does something to me. Plus, I like the climate situation over there where it's like really dry, hot but dry.
Yeah,
right?
It's not humid.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I found so when traveling, and I've told people this a lot, that whatever issues, and everybody has issues with the country they live in, right? Whatever issues you may have with the country at large, the landscape in the United States is pretty fabulous. I mean, it's like a different country, and depending on where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've had some crazy experiences on the road, not just with the music, but with the company I started, or just personally, I've gone cross country many times. And what you mentioned, the desert, once you get out there, like you want to make sure you have plenty of gas.
Yeah. And water.
I've had some moments that were sketchy, You're like, oh my God, I'm almost out and there's nothing. I pulled in, I was just in Oregon, and I wouldn't have thought East Oregon was desert, but it is. And so I'm coming in and nothing keeps showing up.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, I'm getting worried. I saw this little white building that had old gas pumps, like really, really old ones that there's no way there's gas in those pumps. And I had no choice. I pulled out and I was like, all right, I'm going in. I'm going to see what's going on. I knock on the door and it looked like something out of a horror movie. I opened the door It's not at all. There's a lively bar in there. There's a lady making food. They got a little short cook or whatever you call them, a window. It's like, oh my God. I asked the girl, hey, is there gas in those pumps? Oh, yeah, totally. It's the only gas station for the next 20 miles. Okay. Where do you guys live? Oh, none of us live here. You know, we all live around. The post office was in the back lot. It was like a little building. I found that to be, you know, incredibly interesting that these people, that sense of community that they have must be really unique. And they were super friendly. You know, I got the gas, my panic attack's over. I go on into the wooded areas of Oregon. And I think that's what in addition to the changing landscape and city to city, people are different in different
Yeah,
places.
absolutely.
And I found that out west, anyway, in the places I've stopped, people were really friendly with me.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I can say something similar about the West. Like, we definitely like realize that people are different. Not always in a good way, I have to say, because like, man, out west, depending on where you're going, right? Like,
Exactly.
sometimes you're like, what's going on here? Like, why is everyone looking so crazy? And well, we went through Utah, and then of course you see all those like people that run around where you're like, well, is there like a My Little Farm set somewhere where the Mormons, like, they're very like traditionally like Western dressed and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and it's like it was just sometimes mind baffling to me, where I was like, okay, why is this so concentrated here that so many in our eyes weird people live here, right? Compared to, let's say, Dayton, Tennessee, or I
Sure.
don't know, other places. But at the same time, see it the same way. It's like, if you really far out in the desert, like around like Moab or even like beyond that, those people are like, they must hold together, clock together, because you know each of them by themselves will have a big problem, right? They're so reliant on like community, because there is nothing else around them.
Right.
If you need something, like the next store for anything special is like what, few hundred miles away. We stopped on a ranch, like I was called like the Ponderosa Ranch. It was like just outside of Zion National Park, right?
Yeah.
And then we were like, yeah, well, we forgot. Let's go to the Walmart, right? And then on the map it showed like 28 minutes or something like that. And then we actually typed it in, and then I started driving, and I looked at it again like a minute later. I was like, that can't be right. It says 3 hours. Like, it was 163 miles. And I was like, there's something. Well, is that the next like civilization here? So we found, like, we went on, and then we found a little like everything store, right? Those stores that they must have everything. They went from like kettle food over, I don't know, tools over, groceries and frozen stuff, and I was like, oh, wow, this like, they have everything. They're like better than Walmart. They have really everything, including like everything that Tractor Supply had, everything that Walmart had, everything. I mean, pricing though, right? I have to say that, right? You something that you would pay like $1 for, so was like suddenly was $8, because availability, right?
Right. Where are you going to
Supply and demand, right? They were like, yeah, well, we'll take it from you. And the quality of the products that they had there were like, like, I would never, Walmart is already like, I don't necessarily go buy my food there if I can avoid it, right? But that was even like below that. It was really like very questionable in like quality of food and stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, so this is just their reality. The people that live here, that is their reality, because they don't want to drive. See, I mean, think about it. You go to the Walmart. All right, bye. See you in 6 hours.
Yeah.
You're not even considering the amount of time that you need there, right? You probably only do that once a month, or once a week or so, because it takes so long.
And there's so many pockets like that around the country.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool, the community aspect. But again, like you said, a lot of those people will look at you as the outsider.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're going to take advantage of you, make some money on you.
Right.
But I don't know. It's like I learned how to be non-threatening and, I don't know, adapt. And whether I was in New York City or I was in the Joshua Tree, the desert out there. I was like, oh, I found this cool. Same in Europe. I only once ran into someone that had an issue, with me, and that's because my German wasn't great, and he didn't understand me at first. He was Italian, and he went off on me because I said an English word. I was like, oops, my bad. The guy in front of me ordered in English because he couldn't speak anything but that. And I tried, and I don't know. Guy was having a bad day. But for the most part, people were very, very kind and helpful. I hear the same thing about New York City. People have always told me, New York, they're going to be like, yo, forget about it. You ask for directions. It's like, nah, man. I have never had that experience.
I cannot say anything about bad about New York. I have to say that. I lived there for 1.5 years. When I first came over, New York, I mean, like, I'm a German from Germany, right? So for me, Germany is, like, it is what it is, right? I grew up there. I'm German myself. There's always something to stereotypes, right? Or the rude Germans. Well, yeah, I can see that, right? Mm-hmm. Because our culture is more a direct one when in conversations, right? If when I first came over, like, to New York, I was like, oh my God, everyone is so nice here. This is like, for me, I was like, wow, this is like mind blowing. Everyone says the New Yorkers are like the shitty Americans, but I don't see it that way. They're super nice to me. Asking for directions, everyone was helpful. The whole deal with New York was like totally like bringing my life into a totally new direction. Like, New York City changed my life. I have to say that. Maybe it would have changed regardless of the place in America. It was just the culture and like how everyone is kind of, but the energy in New York where, like, basically everyone I met there wanted to make it in some shape or another, right? So I was like, okay, well, I want to make it too, right? So this is like kind of infectious. So I stayed there. I have nothing bad to say about New York, except it was way more dirty than I thought. Like, when I came there the first time, especially Brooklyn, even in the nicer neighborhoods in Brooklyn, there was like trash everywhere in the gutters and whatever. That I was like unpleasantly surprised. But everything else, I have to say, like, New York changed my life.
Well, New York City is that. It's like a thing of its own, a creature of its own. I mean, my band had a song 10 miles out of New York City, got used for like Chipotle commercials and stuff, which was cool. Because that's how I felt. I remember being asleep in the band van, and I woke up and I looked out. You can see New York on the horizon. Like, you see the city out there. You're not there yet, but you see it and you already get excited, especially at night, the way it looked coming in. I love New York. I also, though, a lot of people are like, you're either like an LA guy or a New York guy if you're into the entertainment thing at all. And I'm not either. I love LA. I lived out there. Man, I love Los Angeles. And same deal. Everybody out is trying to make it, but there are totally different personality types.
Absolutely.
In LA, you're going to run into some pretentious people, crowds you don't want to be a part of, but you're also going to meet some of the coolest people ever. And LA is sort of the same to me as what you described going across the country, because you could be like 2 blocks off Hollywood Boulevard and it's quiet.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're in a different place. You've got mountains, you've got beaches. You go a little further up, you got big trees,
Right.
I really did get out there. And
well, I get that. I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles. Also, like, in the beginning years when I just came over here, it was still like on and off. I didn't have a visa, like a work visa, so I always had to go back. But like, Los Angeles was always like part of my journey. It's very different. Way more chill than New York. In New York, like, the energy is a different one. Like, New York, everything is like very hectic and go, right? Don't stop, especially not when you're walking in front of someone, right? Don't stop. LA, the whole energy gets different in the first place, in my opinion, because you need a car, right?
You have to drive.
Everything's so far apart, right? I stayed mostly with a friend of mine. I was actually an Airbnb host once. I stayed with a friend of mine, and we, like, she was like, it was a trailer, it was like in Culver City, like like
on the way to Venice,
right? 5 minutes away from the beach. It was cheap, it was clean. It was like on a park behind like a nursery home. So it was like, there was not much going on. It was kind of quiet. Crime was low. Culver City is like this like tip that goes into Venice basically, and then when you go like we were on Washington, and then when you go like off on like Abercrombie, that's cool. That's just like everyone is chill. It's a little bit more expensive though than the cool areas of New York. I have to say that it's like Abercrombie. Like you get a piece of pizza for like I don't know $8 or something, right? In New York, even in Manhattan, if you go for the cheap stuff, the Dos Bros pizza or stuff like that, right? That's $1.
Yeah.
You go
Oh,
there,
yeah.
it's $1, right? So,
But New York never sleeps. That's the different thing. In LA, stuff closes early.
oh yeah,
very
absolutely.
early.
Yeah,
New York, man, you can find something and
yeah.
you can just
Well,
hop in the cab and go.
Well, I have to say yes, but because when I experienced like especially Manhattan, there's a lot of areas in Manhattan that like done. There's
Right.
nothing going on anymore, right? But then of course you have Times Square and all that kind of stuff. But where I found that the most buzz was going on was like in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
We had an apartment on Bushwick Avenue, right? Bushwick and Putnam, where that was like I would say walking about like 10 minutes away from like Knickerbocker Avenue, where all the clubs were and stuff like that. I just loved it. That never slept ever, right? But at the same time, like Manhattan, most parts of it were kind of lame, in my opinion. So
Well, yeah.
I'm not a
But
Times
the Lower
Square
East
person.
Side's not terrible.
What's that?
It's like the Lower East Side wasn't terrible, but I know
Okay.
what you mean. Tourist, it can get touristy as well.
Mhm.
Brooklyn that's where I stayed. I loved it there. I'd take the F train back and forth. I stayed with this weird guy. His name's Matt. Great guy, but he was different. He would cook out in the winter on his roof in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I love that.
And dude, man's wearing a t-shirt, and I'm up there with a coat on, and we're doing burgers and stuff. It was great though because you got this view. You see Manhattan over there, looking down on people. Eating your burgers. It was a good time.
Well, I bet like my first experience in New York, like staying wise, was like, well, I was broke. I just fulfilled myself a dream, right?
I'm in New York.
First New York vacation. I always wanted to do that. I was already 33 when that happened.
Yeah.
Right. Went there. A flight was kind of cheap because I could like fly outside of the seasons and stuff like that. It was like 2 days after my birthday. And I was like looking, like a friend of mine who was a DJ, lived in New York. He's like a Bronx guy. He's like, hey, you know what? Heard of that app Airbnb? You should definitely use it. It's super hot. Use it. Everything is way cheaper, and you find something. So I found a Airbnb. It was basically in a townhome in Bedford-Stuyvesant, in Bed-Stuy, where we know like that was a rough place a few years ago, right? So went there. I think I paid, don't really lie, it's like maybe $40 a night. It was a bunk hostel, right?
Nice.
It was a 4-bedroom where the guy actually, you might even have heard of him. So the guy that did that was a friend, Brent Underwood. We became friends. Was like renting a 4-bedroom apartment. And then in he had his room and his friend has a room, and then the 2 extra bedrooms, they bunked it out, right? They were like, I think in each room were like 3 bunk beds, so 6 people each, right? So he rented it out for $40 each. That was like booked out all the time.
I'm sure.
What hooked me on that was that they put pictures up of like rooftop parties where they like, they partied their ass off there. It was just great, right? So I was like, okay, I booked that. Went there the second trip over again. I just loved the people. I just loved the vibe and everything. The rooftop. That was exactly like, and that was summer or beginning of summer in June, right? And then the second time around, I think it was in August. I met my later roommates there too, and we stayed then in when they had the apartment in Brooklyn. We stayed then there. So the guy though that had the Airbnb went off, and like I said, I don't know if you heard of it. Like Google it when you're out of here. So he bought a ghost town out west. It's called Cerro Gordo or something like that. And is now like a YouTube sensation because when COVID hit, he was like hiding out there and just like refurbishing all kinds of buildings. I mean, it's a ghost town, right? An old silver mine. Went into the mines. Now, like some of the, like the Diesel Brothers, there was this show like where they built like the diesel trucks or whatever. So they went out there. So he has like millions of followers right now, and I was like, I can't get a hold of him anymore. It's just now this famous person, right? Like that was the guy that I met first back then in New York. But this whole rooftop thing, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
That's also
Okay.
like what people think of New York when they think like urban, cool kind of. That's what they think about. Like Manhattan is cool, yes. Do I like the expensive hotels there? Yeah, absolutely. But like, yeah, there's nothing over like the really cool stuff in Brooklyn.
No, they're as far as hanging out. And you said something about everybody in New York is trying to make it. So I think in cities like that, when you're there, if you have a goal, it's a good place to be because, like you said, it's infectious. But like, if you are doubting yourself, it is a bad place to be because you will feel incredibly depressed. You'll compare yourself to everyone around you. It's a big city, so you can become isolated. You become just a number. And I think a lot of people go there, and cities like that are where dreams go to die because they're not ready for it. It's like you have to bring it if you're going to be in those cities. And I think that's what happened with the band I was in. Like I was there, man, I was ready to go, but my bandmates were a little shaky on it. They kind of missed their small town thing. So I didn't get to stay as long as I wanted in these places. We became transient and played all over the place. But I really enjoyed what you described, that feeling. I miss that feeling.
It's like it's a lot of like energy that goes through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole deal was like, if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere, right? So that's a real feeling, right? Like I'm talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps already. That's like, it's different, but you're right. I think there's a lot of people that can't handle that because their dream maybe wasn't big enough, or they're also like following the wrong friends or whatever, going getting to know like wrong people that take advantage of them, or are not like honest with them, because there's also a lot of shady people going around in New York.
A lot
right?
of empty promises.
Right, empty promises, a lot of drugs, a lot of that all the bad stuff is there too. I mean that's
Sure.
like it's everywhere, right? It's like all the good stuff is there, all the bad stuff is there, right?
Right.
And then again, like thinking about it from my perspective right now, would I want to live like in a city like that with my family? I don't know. Like maybe not. Not in Brooklyn, anyways.
I don't think so.
So you know, I New York was my dream. So I did this, and then from New York, I went back, and I was like, hey, I need to live here, right? How do I do that? I do have 2 children out of my first marriage. They still live in Germany. They're older already. Like my oldest is 18. My daughter just turned 15. The thing was, back in the day, I was like, okay, how do I do that? But at the same time, kind of like don't lose connection to Germany, right? So I came up with this like business plan for a traveling agency where I basically, sell, like vacations, for people that want to have, an insight to
Sure.
the club life of New York City, Los Angeles, what I had. Like I said, I was like really into like techno music back then, I was DJing, I was like producing my own records and stuff like that.
Cool.
Nothing big, but I made it so far as like I had a gig on Times Square in one of those like bikini bars and stuff like that. It was cool. It was not like a professional career, even though I would have wished it was. But
Sure.
I was like, okay, I have all those insights. Why not like producing something that people will benefit from because they don't have those insights but would like the same experience. And at the same time, I make money. I can be here. I can be in Germany. I travel back and forth. I have what I want. So I came up with that, went to the bank after, I would say 1.5 years research here in the United States, came up with a business plan, went to the bank, said, hey, bank, we need 1 million euros to pull this off. Are you in? And they're like, yes, we're in. We would give you $800,000, but you have to bring 20% collateral. So Germany is not America. I went and tried to find venture capital, right? Nothing. So I failed raising the money. And then I got the offer to like go to Chicago, build up a service office for the company that I worked for back then. Or, well, that sent me over. I didn't work for them at this time, right? So that opportunity for me was bigger. So I scrapped it because I was unable to just raise the money, right? In hindsight, though, because of 2020, we all know what happened. Well, we would have died as a company at that point
Yeah.
because all travel between Europe and United States came to an absolute halt, right? For over 1.5 years. I would not have made that. Even if all of the projections that I had in the business plan would have become true, we would be out of business and probably in a lot of debt also. So I don't know. In hindsight, probably would have been a cool time for the first few years, but then, COVID would have killed us. Absolutely. Yeah. So
I was supposed to come here, or Chattanooga, at the beginning of 2020. And so I came to visit, I scoped out places to live. I'm going to start this, residential and commercial moving company. It's a growing city. The demographics are changing. A lot of the cities, it's bringing, different technology groups, also, different industry, but there's a lot of young families coming and younger people, lots of outdoor activities. We're going to do this. And then, bam, it happened. I'd just gone to Scotland. I was there in Edinburgh and around there. And I was excited, to come back. A couple months later, I was going to start a move to Chattanooga. COVID hit. My buddy is a travel nurse, and he was staying with me at the time. And I just remember the anxiety around it all. And even with him, he was very concerned. I mean, when he came in, he would take his clothes off on the front porch, drop them off. When he'd bundle them up, walk in, throw them in the wash, and go straight to the shower because he was treating COVID patients. And we're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't plan to start this business right now. And so I didn't. I waited. So 2022 is when I started the business. However, if I had known, COVID didn't do anything to stop the moving business.
No, actually it accelerated it.
Not one single company of the guys that I know that started companies suffered because of COVID. I didn't know,
Well, you never know.
I played it safe.
Right. So that you never know. Like actually, there's a lot of businesses that actually were like benefiting, like including my own, I have an industrial automation company. Like 2020 was the best year of the company's business so far. No one could send anyone over, right? We were already here. I'm German. We have a lot of German clients. I was like, hey, you need people? Yeah, we need people. We're screwed. We can't send anyone. I was like, okay, no problem. I had the people here. I leveraged other people. That was also like, for me, when it clicked from going from like freelancer to like entrepreneur kind of, like now it's a real company, I'm buying, freelancers in and then surcharge and like sell them out, a little mock-up, and then, everyone is happy. And, I went from like being almost bankrupt beginning of the year when all this happened to then, take a job, work for someone else, figuring out I don't want to work for other people anymore. I can't stand it, right? So I quit my job in the midst of the pandemic. There was nothing else lined up. My wife looked at me like, you crazy? Like, why are you doing that? There's no income coming in. Picked up the phone, really, like called everyone I knew on both sides, right? It's like, I was like, hey, I'm a programmer, right? So you need a programmer. Everyone was like, what we need is salespeople. Like nothing goes right now. I was like, okay, watch me. Picked up the phone. I was like, hey, I have people. You need help? Yes. How many people do you have? I was like, however many you need. So that is like when all this like kind of accelerated for me, 400% growth. And I only worked in the business for about 6 months that year. 400%, 2021, another 100%. This year, we're going to have another 150%.
Cool.
And with this now that I have the resources to do the marketing properly, we're probably going to go 10x next year.
Good.
So moving, the same, right? Moving actually accelerated like crazy because suddenly no one wanted to live in the city anymore. Mm-hmm. Everyone moved away in the country. Our V-sales went up like through the roof. You make no idea. Everyone wanted to be away, just away from people. So that way, there was a lot of business that just exploded. So
yeah, and there are other factors that I don't quite understand. I mean, because every state's different, cost of living's different, and wherever. But you're right. I mean, a lot of people got to moving. I bought a house during the pandemic because I'm like, the interest rates are low now. Might as well do this. So I did. I'm using that It's in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm renting that out to travel nurses and medical professionals. Tried Airbnb for a minute, and I might use it again, but man, those people, they trashed my house.
Oh, really?
They broke my piano. They broke my gate. They broke my mirror. You know, I was like, you got to be kidding me. They moved my furniture, scratched my floors. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to cater to people who are there professionally, who will probably take better care of my home. But yeah, I bought the house. And starting a moving company is not cheap. So, you know, getting everything together for that, moving here, we moved into the North Shore of Chattanooga, and it's a great location.
Yeah, I know.
Walking distance to the bridges and the plenty of little cafes and shops. So really just getting acclimated to the area. And I've got 9 years experience in the moving business. And so with this company, you kind of say you're starting from the ground up, I guess, that is true, but it doesn't feel like it, because when you start a moving company up, technically you don't have to have a physical office. So you can do your phones, your emails, all that stuff from home, which we've been doing for years now anyway, because of COVID. So I'm doing a lot of that, training guys, you know, bringing in new hires and trying to network through the community. Actually, Chattanooga Living, that was the Facebook group that I found. I joined there. I paid like $9 a month to be on their website. And then instantly there's thousands of people. They're commenting every day. Hey, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. And then I'm looking for movers. Okay. And then I actually met with them last week at the Walden Club. A bunch of business owners met to talk about networking and marketing and trying to work together regularly. Because it's not a business that's in danger, I think, of going away. But when you're new in town, man, you really got to get to shaking hands and talking to people.
I know.
That's
Like,
tough.
I built the whole deal here. You know, is for me, it's like network is your net worth, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. Like, we started this year. Like I said, I founded the company 1.5 years ago, and I know what I'm doing was content marketing and everything. But all this year, I started this 6 weeks ago. All right. And look what we have done so far.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the second podcast. That's fine. We have grand opening on Thursday. By the way, you invited, you know,
Sweet.
bring your friends. This is a big networking party for us, right? The first thing I did was like, okay, who do I have to meet, right? It's like, who in town do I have to meet that introduces me to all the players? So I met with a realtor. She introduced me to everyone. You know, I'm a member of the chamber with both companies. I just today pitched the Chamber of Commerce, you know, our services here are working on that. It's you know, networking. That's number one, what you have to do. Meet people, shake hands, you know, make sure you're known, right? It doesn't matter who you know. The only thing that matters is who knows you, right? And for what do they know you? It's so important. I run, like, basically, I wouldn't need this office here for Pitco, you know, for the industrial automation company. I wouldn't, because, you know, I ran it for the last few years out of my pocket, basically. Right. Emails on the phone, on the computer, not a problem. Right. You know, I do not have a lot of staff that works for me directly. Most of them are either freelancers or work for other companies that I then onboard and rent out to my clients. So it's not a big deal, though. You know, everyone knows that. It's not a secret. But, like, you know, I do not need that, right? What I need is get in front of more people,
Same.
right?
Yeah.
If it's physically or on the internet, right?
Exactly.
LinkedIn, for example, I tell everyone, you know, LinkedIn is the most undervalued social media platform in the world, right?
You're probably right. I don't put a lot of value in it myself. I should probably maybe do
LinkedIn, number one platform for business people. Why is that? Because you can target people organically way better than on any other platform. The organic reach on LinkedIn is like through the roof.
Yeah.
Like, I post something at this point, I was able, like, I did it like with purpose. So I grew it to like 7,000 followers and growing every day, basically. When I post something with hashtags and whatever I want, and I'm looking for something using groups in LinkedIn, I'm able to get in front of 15,000 people. Like, you know, that's easy. I fill engineering positions right now through that network and within 48 to 72 hours. Not a problem.
Beautiful.
Good people. Good people.
Let me go ahead and tell you. You can drop a hint here. Throw River City Moving in there on those posts. See how many people you can get me in front of. I need to get better at that stuff, man.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like we are in the business of connecting people, right? And that's what we're doing with Mapeus. That's what we're doing with Pitco. We connect people. That's all it is. Networking. We're going to do networking events in here too once a month because for me personally, that's a big pitch fest. Amen. And on the other hand, it's like, how can I help you get in front of more people? And even if I make no money with it, that's fine. You're going to remember me next time someone tells you, hey, I have a marketing need, or you know what, I need an engineer because my robot is like broken or whatever. So that for me, it's all like one hand washes the other, right? So,
when you're starting out, for me, I have a degree in psychology. That's what I went to college for. I tried to use that. Social work, that type of thing. I worked with teenagers, runaways. I worked in a hospital, and it was all kind of soul sucking. I mean, insurance was the ultimate god of the whole operation. That's who you answer to for everything. This was not very rewarding to me. So I quit everything and took off to the beach and started a band. And at the time, I was 27 years old when I started playing music, right? Man, it was probably the best decision I ever made because I was able to do that fairly quickly. Next thing you know, I'm in LA and touring the country. It's great. But when you're doing that, if you weren't ready before, you have to learn to meet a lot of people at the end of the shows, or you're talking to booking agents or talent buyers. You got to sell yourself. And then when I started photography, it was a completely different world. I was doing that with my ex at the time. And then when we split, it's a lot of portrait photography, and we photographed a lot of women. She did a lot of boudoir photography, but we also did a lot of modeling. And then we'll do business professionals, weddings, so more person to person, face to face kind of stuff. And then so with the moving company, I talk to people all day, every day on the phones, and that's one thing. But getting out in front of them is a different one. And being new to Chattanooga and not knowing everybody, I know that is much more required of me. I talked to the Chattanooga Free Press. We did some targeting emails and things like that. I signed up with some Renaissance Remax group. Did the Chattanooga Living thing last week. I'm here today. And in between, I'm constantly talking to customers. It's a grind, and I'm doing it by myself as well. So same deal. I'm the owner and running the show. I don't have a ton of employees because that doesn't make a lot of sense right now. What I would like is to grow the company, increase my revenue by 300-400% by the I don't know, 6-7 months from now would be great. So I can hire more guys, buy a couple more trucks, and I can step back a little more, have someone else answer my phones and do more of this because, I'm from Tennessee. I'm from Morristown, but like I said, outside, I haven't lived here in 17 years. Mm-hmm. So I might know a handful of people here, but this is all new to me. Even when I lived in Tennessee, I didn't come down to Chattanooga much because at the time, back then, it wasn't what it is today.
I understand.
And now it's much cooler, right?
Well, it's cool at one point, and then also like I see more like the industrial like part of it. For me, like Chattanooga is like that's worth a big investment, right? The whole region, there's like tons of like manufacturing jobs added. We have Google being in here. Right. We have the fastest internet in the whole country. All that kind of stuff. That's something where I know both of my businesses, industrial automation and media, is wanted here, right? So that's a huge investment for me. At the same time, for me, it's even like I don't know one here. Like at least that was the case 6 weeks ago. Right. I know everyone here now. So that's the thing. Like the moment you realize that don't be shy. People actually generally want to help you. Even if they don't know you, because if you bring some value to the community, they don't care. They will help you. They will go out of their way and to just make sure that something good is happening to you. I have to say that. Like, people think Why would anyone help you? They don't even know you. I think that's not the case. The reverse is actually the case, that people genuinely want to help you, especially when you talk to other business owners, right? So, well, they know how that is when they started, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one helped them. Well, they asked for help. Then people help them. Now they give it back.
I think the key to that really, though, is when you meet with these people, from my experience, is to keep it business related. Relate where you can, but I don't get too deep with it because I've learned valuable lessons in the past. Now, don't talk politics with people. Don't do it. Only in a relevant setting, because otherwise it can muddy the waters, especially right now. This country is more divided than ever.
It's awful.
It's terrible. So, but what I noticed at the gatherings that I've been to so far, that doesn't come up, thankfully. And people are like you described. They're, how can I help? How can you help me? Especially for startups. I mean, we're here to grow a business.
Mm-hmm.
We're here, part of that, like you said, is meeting people. Like if you have a need, I'm a photographer. You need some pictures taken? I mean, I'm sure you got guys to help, but I can do that. I'm a musician. You need some music? I got you. I'm a professional musician. You know, you can check my stuff out. You find the more you talk to people, you know, what they have to offer. And it's not all transactional. I mean, I'm sure you get to know people along the way as well. But yeah, I'm down to help. And it's great to meet so many people.
It's a network machine. That's what it is, right? So I always go into a conversation like this. It's like, okay, how can I help you, right? Most likely, if, you know, I get introduced to a new, I don't know, customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the industrial automation world, most likely this goes down like this. Hey, you know what? I know this company, they often need people. See what you can do for them. And I go there and I totally reverse it before I even the first time talk to them. It's like, hey, this is what we do. What are you doing? Well, we do XYZ. You know, we do electrical installations, mechanical installations, something like that. And the first thought I have is like, how can I use them? How can I get them business? Because most likely it's like, that's great and all. You know, maybe we do business in that direction one time too. But at this point, you know, at this moment, I'm more in the position that because I'm a people connector, that I'm more likely have business for you than you for me. You know, because I have a totally different network.
Completely
right?
different type.
Like I went totally ballistic when it comes to like networking online on LinkedIn, where, you know, like I said, we're adding like hundreds of followers every month, right?
That's awesome.
Through just like, you know, showing them that we have a need for people and showing other people that we can deliver people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have need for people all the time. So that way, you know, we just have to make sure that we don't burn our name by sending people out that are not good, right?
Right.
So I have this rule that, you know, we're kind of like a country club. If I don't have a referral for someone new that I don't know of at least 2 people, you're not going to work for me, right? Or I have a middleman in between that says, hey, I worked with that person multiple times already. They're good. They have a name to lose. I trust them. Then you're in. If you're new and I don't know you, you're not in. So
that is so different than what I'm doing. That's really cool. I can relate to that through the music and the film aspect. I remember shooting music videos, you know, they would bring in audio engineers. They would bring in guys that they didn't really know that well. They were all referrals, that type of thing. Me, I get bombarded with applications on Indeed, for example. Just in the last few days, like 30 dudes have applied to work for me.
For what position?
The driver, mover. I don't need that many guys. So I have to, you know, go through all that, check the references.
But that's like, what kind of offer do you have on there? Because right now, like everyone, like I'm in we do staffing solutions, right?
Sure.
The problem that I have is not only me. Like I do not touch general labor. What I would like consider this, because I'm competing against like the Volkswagen and Nokia and tires and all those big companies that are in the business have like, hey, you know what? We don't care if you have a degree. If you can hold like a Phillips screwdriver, then you're our guy, right?
Right.
So you're competing with those companies, and they are, you know, offering like $3,000 just to show up.
Well, that's great. I'm not. I pay more than other moving companies, though. $23 an hour starting out is a lot more than most of these moving companies.
$23 for like movers.
Yeah, Why not? These guys are working their asses off.
Well, I believe that. I'm a huge friend of like giving people opportunities.
Yeah, and they get tipped on the jobs as well. I want them to make money because I know the retention for a mover really at best is usually about a year. If you can hold on to someone for 2 years, you've done good. I want guys that are going to come in, they're going to learn how to move, pad, protect, and take care of people's items, build trust, good customer support, customer relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it would be great if they continued to improve. I want them to learn how to do the phones and the emails. I want them to become a manager. It would be great for me, to find a good management team so I can step back and help build the company. You have guys that will be movers or supervisors and drivers, things like that. They're very skilled at it that don't ever really want to grow. And that's great. I'm going to keep giving them raises.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a mover making $35 an hour, that's fine with me. If he's been with the company that long, he's earned that, I'll pay more. I give bonuses. I try to take care of the guys, but ultimately what it boils down to is having enough work to keep all of them busy and happy. And that's where I'm at now. I mean, when we first got here, I had the craziest thing happen. It was a stress reaction on my part, but there was another company in town who had a name similar to mine. They did not exist when I told you back in 2019 I was looking to move.
Mm-hmm.
That company wasn't a company. So I got the name, bought the domain name. I started working the LLC, all that stuff. I go about my business, got my logos, got my truck, boom, 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 got my business license. I moved to Chattanooga. Then I find out there's this company. And okay. So I verify my Google business. They send you the card and you verify it. Instantly suspended. Why am I suspended on Google? I don't understand. Well, they don't make that easy for you. There's no person to talk to. So, okay. And then I wondered, is it because this other company, maybe they think they are trying to create a new business account? It flagged something. Well, then online on social media, I'm advertising and I get this email from Facebook. Hey, there's a business in town saying that you are infringing on their rights with your advertising. You need to cut it out or we're going to have to take out your account. Then there was a link. If you think we got it wrong, go here. I'm an idiot. If I had taken 5 seconds more to look at the sender, I would have noticed that was not in fact Facebook. It was a phishing email. I clicked it, boom, instantly, pornography posted to my Facebook. Got my account disabled or suspended, under review. They started trying to hack my financial information, my PayPal. They hijacked my IP address, created a ton of accounts. It was a nightmare. The first 7 weeks of being here, I was banned from, Meta platforms. I wasn't on Google. I mean, talk about getting your legs knocked out from under you for this kind of company. So finally, Facebook, Meta, whatever, finally just killed all of my accounts. My music one I told you about, Stereo Reform, gone. Thousands of followers disappeared. My photography on Facebook, my moving companies, gone. Even my sister's memorial page, she passed away in 2016, gone. Personal Facebook, 13 years of great behavior, gone. And never once was there a human being along the way that I could even talk to. I reported it all to the FBI because that's an internet crime. Whoever did this to me is doing it to other people. So I had to start over. 7 weeks into being here, rebuild the social media. Google ended up sending me what amounted to an apology email. Like, oops, we probably shouldn't have suspended you. Now you're not suspended anymore. Good. I find out that company, the one that had a similar name, is not even in business anymore. They were unlicensed. They weren't incorporated. So they got listed as permanently closed because people started thinking they were me. They were calling them and finding out that they weren't in business. So anyway, it all worked out, but it took a couple of months to work out. So I've been here for 3 months, and the first almost 2 months of it was this anxiety fest that pushed me out into the streets to having to meet people to get business. So,
I mean, if it would be easy, everyone would be doing it, right?
Right.
So
it's not.
That the whole phishing deal, and it's like, that's something, that could happen. That's, I'm I'm very careful all the time with anything. I get tons of emails all the time, open invoice and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all phishing stuff, right? So especially when you like put yourself out there as a business owner, was a business, for the longest time for Pitco, my personal cell phone number was out there, right?
Oof.
So like I get tons of stuff, spam calls and like emails and whatnot, right?
It's maddening.
It is, and it's like in the beginning, I think I made some mistakes too because I was like just like hungry for business, right?
Yeah.
But then now over the years, we're in business now over 6 years, and I know the drill, right? I know like, hey, you know what? If it's not like coming from a trusted source, everyone that sends me an invoice, I know by name, all right?
Oh yeah.
Or you know, it's impossible for that something slips through. We had, for example, my office manager. We created a new email for her. Right? She started the job. Day 2, she got phishing emails. It's like, hey, in my name, by the way. So they like there's people. I don't know if there must be bots or whatever. So the moment that email was out there, someone wrote her an email in my name. Hey, I'm on the phone right now. Can you do this for me? Click on this link. She's like, did you send me an email? Because I was on the phone at that moment. Yeah. Did you just send me an email? I was like, no. She's like, well, I don't know, but like, I was, and then we looked it up and it was an email address that was just phishing, but how fast that can go.
Oh, it sucks.
Right? You have to be aware that, if you put your email out there somewhere as a business owner, that kind of stuff will happen. Like inevitably.
I learned the hard way. What they did, I think they saw an ad, a sponsored ad on Facebook, and I made the mistake in the ad of including the email rather than just directing them to my website, which they could have. It just made it easier for them. There's the email, and that's what they did. I mean, that's how they got me, just like that. And it was the day I posted the ad, I got the email, and I clicked the link. Same night, everything goes all to hell. And so it was traumatic because, it takes a lot.
Did you ever get it back?
No, it's all gone forever. I've never gotten in touch with anyone at Facebook. No one responded to me. I lost, and for somehow the music Facebook stereo reform on Facebook stayed, but I'm no longer an administrator because that account was deactivated. I'm locked out of my own, things that I have publishing rights to. Those are my copyrighted, that's my music. Locked out of that. The presence is gone on Instagram. But I think the most hurtful part of that was, we've become too dependent on social media. So for 13 years of Facebook activity, there's a lot of photos and memories and videos that don't exist anywhere else that are gone now. And my sister, she passed away in 2016. So that was devastating, to lose that. And to lose her memorial page, also devastating. I sat down and did a video interview talking about what happened to her, which was incredibly difficult to do, and that video is gone. So you got to be careful with that stuff. I've learned an invaluable lesson, and unfortunately, it was a pretty tough one to learn with that phishing crap.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, we're heavily relying on social media too, right? And also, like, we're doing that for our clients, right? We're doing social media marketing, content marketing for our clients. There's tons of content that we will put out, right? Already doing that for ourselves, where, only relying on that. I had someone on here last week, and she was like, she's an Instagram influencer in the fitness space, woman empowerment and all that kind of stuff. And I asked her the question, I was like, hey, what would happen if Instagram goes away tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Are you still in business? And she's like, yes, because I have websites. We're making sure we're everywhere. We have our podcast on Apple. We're not like, if Instagram goes away, there's enough people following us on all the other channels. We're very local, like in person kind of thing. Where she's like, I wouldn't be afraid. We have a website. We control that ourselves. It's nice. And you reach people beyond just the local, but you're not like, oh, I need that. Otherwise, I'm not non-existent anymore. So that's very important also for us that we have our websites. We do everything like marketing on social media platforms, but at the same time, we have our website. We're going to have, physical events. We have networking events, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're laying this out for local, like the brick and mortar business is for local. Yeah. It is only scalable that far, right? So like if we reach 30 clients in here, we're at capacity. So I have to like branch out and like open new offices. And then again, like if you build an office like this with a team and one podcast room, it's probably going to be like 30 people again, right? Because, the week only has so many hours. We're catering to business owners mostly, right? Small business owners and enterprises where they, they're busy running their business during the day. So they're probably going to come in here like during the afternoon hours or maybe on a weekend, maybe on a holiday, something like that, where it's all like laid out like locally, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you want to go at scale, you need something digital. Otherwise,
Sure.
How do you want to do that?
Yeah.
So, or you have like a music product, right? You have an album out there or a single or whatever, or, you produce something else that is like, somehow consumable, but, like trainings, for example, right? Like we're living in a world where like online training courses and stuff like that is super big, right? That you can create and then like sell it at scale, even like to the outside world, right? But everything what we do here, that's local. That's like,
and that's
not really scalable either.
That's sort of like where I'm at with that. So like, the rubber band stretched out for me with music, trying to get everybody to listen to my music, whatever. And now it's come back to here. This is where I am now. That's what I'm doing now. River City Moving, that's what I'm here for. And it is locally owned, locally operated. And I'm reaching out directly to the community. Yeah. Most of the jobs are going to be in a 50, 60 mile radius of Chattanooga. But we'll service the entire state. That's fine. But that's kind of how our branches work. I say ours because Tiger Moving in Greenville, South Carolina, that's where I came from. And they came from Wildcat Moving in Lexington, Kentucky. And we've got Falcon Moving in Atlanta, Top Dog Moving in Atlanta, Gamecock in Columbia, up in Richmond. We've got a lot of branches. None of us, though, are part of a franchise that has rules necessarily. It's more like whoever the owner was at the other place, once you hit a certain revenue point, one of your managers can then go and open their own branch. They're autonomous. You come up with your own name, your own everything. And the owner of that company will get 10% of your profits after, at the end of the year.
But what is the benefit for you as someone that branches out?
The benefit is this. You have to sign a non-competition agreement when you become a manager. So unless you want to go to court and spend a lot of money, that's what you have to do. But really it's not bad because for me, I'm going to be getting a huge percentage of the profits as an individual owner. A lot of the companies start with 2 managers. So it's 2 guys doing it. I'm doing it by myself. We pay ourselves well, based on revenue and then hourly if you do hourly. But moving companies can be very profitable. And that's why you do this kind of thing, to the point that, paying, it's not even really a franchise fee. I don't even know what they technically call it. Doesn't hurt you that much because I'm going to do the same thing. When I hit a certain revenue point, if one of my guys wants to open a branch, they can do that. I might even open a second one for myself in Nashville. But yeah, so for me, focus on local is the way to go. And that's really all I'm focused on. I'm from Tennessee. I wanted to open my branch in Tennessee. So I wanted to come somewhere that I didn't live before, meet new people, build a whole new thing. And honestly, the psych degree, the music, the photography, it all kind of helped me because sales and stuff like that, I hated that. That was, talk about something I never thought I'd do. But all of that together, I find uses for all those other skills I learned in this particular company. I like to meet people. Moving is very personal, man. You're moving people's most valued items. This is the stuff they really care about. Some people don't, but for those that do, you're in their home. There's an opportunity to get to know them a little. You got to build their trust, and it's important to take care of their things like you would your own. A lot of moving companies don't do that. A lot of these guys, they'll break your stuff and, they're kind of reckless with it. They'll hire day labor. I don't do that. we're licensed, we're insured, all that stuff. So anyway, the point of me saying that is that it's just important to me that you build trust locally, meet people locally, and grow out that way. Just like what you were saying, for a moving company like this, there's never going to be a River City Moving nationwide, because that's not how we do this. I'll open another branch somewhere else and build it up.
And be local again.
Yeah. Be local
again. I get it. Now, that's, I mean, like the whole local aspect of this, I think is very important when, you know, you meet the people, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, at some point, there's going to be so much work that you as an owner are probably not talking to your customers anymore, right? But other people might, you know, and that is, you know, so it's a local business. You support a local business. It's not like I'm calling Atlas Van Lines or whatever, you know, they do the moving for me. It's more, okay, I saw that guy's ad, you know, I know him maybe personally. It's not, call him up and it's like, okay, you know what? I remember we talked about this like 1.5 years ago. You know, we're moving right now. Are you still in business? There you go. Right.
Sure.
Build trust with someone, even, you know, like just, I tell everyone everything. When people look at me, it's like, why are you telling them that? Right. It's like, well, I tell you why, because you know how often I have talked with people that had nothing to do with my problem, but then I talked about my problem and they were like, hey, I have a solution. So just by, you know what, I talked about that with my friend just now. I can't help you, but he can. Here's the phone number.
Yeah.
Like reach out to people, tell them that you have a problem. They will help you. Even, you know, whatever. 2 years later, I remember that person. Let's call him. He's local. You know, let's give him the shot, you know.
Even if I see people not having a problem. I mean, I went to a clothing store the other day. It was a vintage clothing store near where I live. They seem to be doing just fine. But if I get something and I really like it, I'm going to tell people about it. I'm going to post about it. I'm going to encourage people to go there. I mean, the more I do that, the better it feels, especially as a business owner. I mean, that's invaluable. I mean, if someone, hey, I met the owner of River City Moving, never moved with him. Dude seems like a good guy. Check him out. Or the opposite, you know, they have moved. Great experience.
No, like power, like, and you know that from a psychology degree, probably. Like
sure.
The power of reciprocity, right, is so big and so powerful that, you know, you wouldn't even believe it. And, you know, when you first said that you have a psychology degree, I was like, that man must be a good salesperson. Because that's actually what it is, right? It's like me, when I was younger, I thought I would never be a salesperson, even though I was one all the time. You know, I worked in retail. I worked in my parents' retail store. Then I went on to, like, you know, and I always tell those guys here, right? You don't want to be a salesperson, that's fine, but you are one regardless. Because if you have an idea and want to convince me of an idea, you have to sell me on this, right? It has nothing to do with like, well, here's the idea, I get money, or here's the product, here's the service, I get money for it. It's about like, sometimes you even have to sell your spouse or girlfriend or whatever on like where we're going to eat, right? It's like, and why, right?
Every
so
day
that's something where like, I think everyone is a salesperson. Everyone is a salesperson.
We even sell ourselves. We have to make sales to ourselves to convince ourselves to do things out of our comfort zone.
Yes, exactly.
And
absolutely.
I never thought of it that way until, you know, I started working, doing, you know, phones and stuff at Tiger Moving. I'm like, man, sometimes you really got to convince these people. And then the way to do that, like, movers go into your home. So have you ever had someone come into your home, a cable guy or something like that, that made you uncomfortable? Where you're like, ugh, something about this guy. They didn't talk to you, or they were rude, or they smelled like cigarettes, or whatever it is.
All of the above.
All of the above. Well, I take that and I'm like, wow, just the peace of mind of someone coming in, looking you in the eye, being kind, shaking your hand, smelling good, and being respectful of your space is a good starter for selling yourself. I don't know. I started to get more and more comfortable around people that I don't know. And honestly, I think psychology degree, yeah, but playing in Austin one night and then being in Santa Fe the next night and then being in Phoenix the next night, it's like, whoa, you know, you're having to talk to people. You're helping a booking agent send emails on your behalf. Man, I didn't realize I was learning about sales but even when I was being a creative, so to speak, you know?
Yeah. No, sales is, I think I mean, everyone in business, right? That's the skill you should have. Like, if your product sucks, if your service sucks, doesn't matter. You should know how to sell, right? You can fix the product, you can fix the service.
Yeah,
You have to sell. Otherwise, there's not going to be any services anymore.
exactly.
Right? You have to just sell. I mean, I absolutely agree. Like this is absolutely skill number one. Without that, you can have the best product. You know, if you can't sell it to anyone, what does it matter?
And sales isn't always, I think it's got a bad rep. It did for me even. I found it to be something that was manipulative. I thought people that were salesmen were trying to get one over on you. I learned that's not always the case at all.
It's not always the case. It's often the case. I have to say that. And then,
Sure.
but you know, from what I see, no, I would, pride myself saying like I'm a good salesperson. I sell a lot, right? I convince people of ideas. I convince people to buy something from me. But at the same time, no one is ever able to sell anything to me. Like I'm very hard to sell to. So the only person that sells to me is me. So if I go somewhere and I want to buy something, especially if it's like something of higher value, right? That the salesperson comes, tries to sell something to me where I was like, well, stop. Like I'm gonna buy this regardless.
Yeah, I don't need it, man.
I don't need your shitty explanation. You're not that good in the first place. So then on the other hand, sometimes I'm sold on something, I want it, and then the salesperson is sabotaging that, like trying to not sell to me by not getting me the information I want, not, following through with like, sometimes I wanted to buy a boat, right, this summer. And I went to one of those like marinas and I was like, hey, I really like this boat. What does it cost? He named the price. I was like, okay, so if you can get me the information on the boat, XYZ, maybe some receipts and stuff like that, it was a used boat.
Yeah.
Then I would be interested in that, right? You go ahead. I heard nothing. I had to follow up. Well, didn't get to it yet. I'll do it tomorrow. Took forever.
It's kind of weird.
It is weird. And I'm like, oh man, like if I would be your boss and I would have this interaction like recorded somewhere, you wouldn't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're here to sell, and what you're doing is you're sabotaging me buying a boat from you, right? The other, called him again, nothing. At the end, like there was no sale happening. I actually went to a guy that didn't even post it anywhere, like a for sale sign on the boat, put it in the front yard. I stopped, or actually a friend of mine saw it, sent me the picture. I called him, he's like, it's still there? Yep. Went there, not posted anywhere. Nowadays, there's like, you'll sell the boat, but you sell to a very small crowd. Went there, that was good for me. Great boat, bought it, done. Private person. Salesperson that gets gets paid for selling, sabotages the sale. Like,
I don't know what his deal was, but you have to learn to read the customer too, like when not to push and when maybe they need, sometimes people have questions that they don't know they have.
But that's not the only time that happens to me. That happens to me all the time. It's like salespeople.
Wow.
Is like they're the most important people in a company, my opinion. Salespeople. Sure. Without them, no company.
Right.
On the other hand, it's like they're the most difficult people to find. Good ones. Don't sell. Don't follow up. Don't show up. It's like, where's the point? It's like, for me, salespeople in my company, they don't get paid unless they sell. So it's 100% commission, right? It's like a realtor, or, if you will. If you do sell for me, you get the biggest commission that you can get anywhere. But if you don't sell for me, then you get nothing. And people come to me, it's like, yeah, but don't I get like a base? I was like, wow, confident that you can sell? Well, no, but I want a base. So you just told me you don't think that you're a good salesperson. If you are, then every time you get a commission, it's recurring revenue. We're on a subscription-based level, right? if my customer pays me, you get paid. So you just told me that you don't want the recurring revenue, that you don't think that you could even sell one thing.
That individual, I would say to them, if you're not ready for a job like that, then maybe you should do something else and build your confidence somewhere else first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but like, how can you build confidence somewhere else when the only thing you're like, oh yeah, I want a sales job, but you know what? I want to be paid if I sell something or not. It's like, well, if you have that fear, that can only mean two things. Either you don't believe in yourself or you don't believe in the product. Then don't work there.
Right. I cannot make money if I don't get people to book jobs. Period. Nothing happens. I lose money because I'm paying insurance on trucks. I'm paying workers' comp, and I have to do that.
I have the same here. Like with this business, same. If we don't have salespeople producing, I can't float them so long, right? With my other company. Right. I'm not worried about that because we're already in the process. We already have the first customers and stuff. But it is true. If I don't have salespeople doing their job, then we're going to have a big problem. So in this case, right now, the only person that really sells is me. I have two independent contractors. We will see how this works out, right? This is not blaming anyone, but now we'll have grand opening, 2 days from now.
Cool.
We have to produce, right? If we don't produce, we're not going to be in business 3 months from now, Sales, that's the most important job that you can have, like in a business. And also, like I said, like for yourself, sell to yourself, sell to your spouse, sell to your mother, whatever, convince people of ideas. That's sales too, no doubt.
And that comes from confidence that, maybe even if maybe you don't really have it, you have to kind of manufacture it a little bit, build up that bravery, take some deep breaths.
But I'm not sure, like, it for me, it depends on the product, right? I mean, they're my businesses. Yeah, I'm confident, I don't expect anyone to be like me because that's impossible. That's my business, right?
Sure.
You work here, all of them get profit share. We don't, we have an hourly, we pay overtime. Normally positions like that, they're all salary, right? So we have hourly, we have overtime, we have a profit share. If we hit break-even point, everyone gets money.
Cool.
I'm not going to give everything away, but, I'm going to give a big chunk away to my employees too, because without them, we wouldn't have money either, right?
Right.
The other thing is that, where the salespeople commission, like that's like recurring revenue. I don't think anyone else offers this that way, or not very many people.
And that's a tough one though, because what I meant by confidence is in order to make that sale with someone, you have to be comfortable in your own shoes. You can't question what you're talking about or someone's going to realize that. And
that comes back to what I just said was the product,
Exactly.
Are you convinced that the product you sell is any good?
Right.
If you're not convinced of that, then either you have to sell yourself on that, or, you need more information from your boss or, from the company that you want to work for, or don't do it. Don't do it.
Exactly. I know what I'm doing with the company, and in every residential or commercial moving company, it's inevitable. There's going to be a damage. It's inevitable. Something's going to go wrong, but it's all about how you handle that and how you make it right and build the trust with people. I mean, really, it's like you said, you have to believe in the product. And in my case, the product is, hey, I will help you take all your important stuff to a new location and get you there safe and sound at a reasonable price. Guaranteed. I'm trying to make my guys happy. I pay them well. That's the deal.
I mean, I think that's very important. That's why I ask you why you get hammered with like applications. So for me, it was like when I we hire content creators, videographers, and photographs and stuff like that. In the beginning, when I posted the jobs, like the first few job postings I did was on LinkedIn. Even though I loved LinkedIn, we talked about that, but for the job posting, for the finding people for creative positions, I don't think LinkedIn is the right place.
Is it not? Yeah,
I don't think LinkedIn is the right place. I had not a lot of luck with that. There were a few people that were on there that reached out that had the qualifications, but then they were like, "Yeah, I want a remote job." I was like, "Well, I said this is 100% on site. We don't have remote jobs. Wasting my time, right?"
Yeah.
And that's a big problem also, right? Remote jobs. Everyone wants to work remote. How do you want to do this remotely? Like like Malachi here, right? How do you want to do that remotely? Can't do that. So what, we have to be here. We want to also build a culture and a team that I can't do when you're like somewhere in New York or somewhere in like, I don't know, Utah. It's impossible. I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
You have all the people that reach out that are from like out of country, right? A lot of people from Philippines, a lot of people from like India and everywhere. Like I cannot do that, right? I can't get you over on a visa because the type of job is probably not going to be easy to get you on a visa, right? Because of the restriction that come with it. And then the other thing is that I that's too much cost also, right? We're a startup. I don't want to spend like $10,000 up front just to get you over here, just to realize you're not a fit.
No. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. For you, for what you're looking for, I mean, you have what you need.
Yeah, I have. But we're the only person that's still missing is a contest strategist that can take away from the work that I do mostly. But everyone else we're full right now. I had someone else yesterday, a videographer. There was a lot of experience in like real like filmmaking. Worked in the film industry down in Atlanta. Great guy, like literally like tall also like, so he's going to start next week. So we're full when it comes to that. I need a strategist, and then we're absolutely full. Once we're like growing, we're adding people to the team, right? But my problem, or what I found out was this: I posted on Indeed that, Indeed. The first few days I posted, that was the same deal. Like people from out of town, people from New York, people from all over the place. Didn't really get me what I wanted. Then what happened? Like a week later, I didn't even believe in it anymore, right? Like I got a bunch of quality candidates. And I was like, wow, okay. So found out that, Indeed, it pushes it to the top when you post it to all jobs that are on Indeed in the region and beyond. But then, because if you don't use the paid feature, what happens is like it goes down and down and down and down. And then only people that actively search for a position, let's say content creator, I don't know, Chattanooga, Cleveland, wherever they live, they're then like the right candidates because they're looking for a job locally. They want to, work in the field. They see that. And that's a totally different animal than, let's say, when you get pushed and then you get all those like candidates that are not really qualified because
everybody's trying to jump on your boat and it's not going to work.
Correct.
You need to find the guy swimming.
So now that worked out pretty well. I have to say, like the team that we have here, like very talented guys, and we're going to grow with this company, right? We're going to make mistakes. We're already doing that.
Yeah,
that's
happens.
Normal, right? We're onboarding the first clients, and then we go from there. The only benefit that we have is that we can, already we train ourselves on the skills, growing together as a team, while already doing what we're offering to other people because we're doing it for ourselves and we're doing it for my other company.
Yeah,
that's the big benefit of that. So other companies, startup mode, don't have the big team, don't have the funds, don't have the experience, and then also like don't have the try, like where you're trying it. What are you trying it out with, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like a dummy company, a dummy customer? We do have too, right? So we're doing that, and I think it's already going in the right direction. I mean, the production that we picked up now, and we're gonna create so much content in the next few weeks.
That's great.
That we will already like see effects of that in just a few months from now.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for the same. With everything I'm doing in the last month or so, signing up with different groups, meeting with people, paying a little money to be in this magazine or that, hopefully that comes around. I mean, the company I came from that I worked for, I actually still work for them remotely, funny enough. But they won Best of the Upstate, in Greenville, South Carolina. So for the last 5 years in a row. And I learned a lot of what to do and what not to do. So when you have 9 years of experience in any industry, and especially if you've been in management, when you go to do your own thing, you're starting off in a good place because you've already learned a lot about what not to do.
Right.
But every city's different, and for you, maybe every project's different. I don't know, but the learning and being flexible is huge, and it sounds like you're doing that.
I mean, I had conversations with other people about building businesses and starting businesses. For me, I'm in the industrial space for over 20 years now, right? I started in Germany, over here for a while already. Everything I have ever done so far when it comes to like day jobs was industrial automation, manufacturing, and such.
Oh, plenty of experience.
But I had a life like you too. I was a DJ, I was an event promoter, I was this, I was that, I was a band manager in Germany, right? So I went through a lot of past, too myself. I know how industries work. I've been a realtor. I've been a licensed realtor in Chicago, so I know the real estate industry from the inside, right?
Yeah.
So everything kind of comes together like as a closed circle right now. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of things, and now I'm founding a business that I already know a bunch of stuff. I don't start from scratch. I mean, the business is fresh, but I have, like I said, like I started event promoting like in 1997. That's like what, 150 years ago or something like that. So that we did this already. We did this was like partially online, partially offline. We had a few ideas that we like implemented, and it worked. Some of them didn't work. Networking, right? And then I came over here. I was like, okay, we're starting a new business. This time we're starting a business in industrial automation because that's like, it was basically my wife that says, why did you never attempt to like have a business in something that you actually have a degree in? I was like, well, that's a good question. I don't know, because it's boring, and it is boring. I have to say, it's not glamorous. Is it boring? From like, if I tell you we're doing industrial automation, we're writing software for machines, stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
that's
not thrilling.
That's not glamorous, all right? It is not. It's like, it gets more and more glamorous as I can sprinkle in. It's like, yeah, you know what? I was part of the Tesla team that wrote the software standard for their Model 3. They're like, oh, really? You worked for Elon Musk? I was like, well, not directly, but yes,
yeah.
Sure. So gives it a little bit of like a not so boring taste anymore. But like really, it's like the process of building businesses that makes it not boring for me. I get more thrill out of building a business, basically the process of, right, than the actual business. It doesn't matter what it is anymore for me, because I have a system how to build a business to a successful business, because I only go with what I know, right? I know industrial automation, I know manufacturing, so I have this company that clicked. I use leverage to like blow up the business. I'm a promoter, so I use promotion for my business. It works. I'm a salesperson. I do that. We're going to have like, digital products like sales training and stuff like that, marketing training, and then put it out there because that's scalable, right? So I know that that's going to be part of the business. Well, I do not know anything about insurance, for example. Someone offered me to be like part of like the financial industry, right? It's like, you want to do that, you can like grow, and it's kind of like you get profit share every time someone that you recruited and whatever. Not blaming anyone, but I don't know anything about it. I don't want to be in that, So for me, it's like, we're building this, we're building the next, and then whatever I spend the most money on the next 2, 3, 4 years with both businesses will be my next business. I will identify something. Yeah. I don't know what it is yet, exactly, but something that I spend a lot of money on, where I can say, all right, now enough is enough. I want to make that money. That's going to be the next business. Done.
Which is really cool. I mean, I remember playing music. It was funny what you said. Now, that's a little bit different because, you're selling yourself as an entertainer. You have a very accessible product. Here's my music. Listen to it. Here's my video. Watch it. But Same deal. If someone's listening to you, you're like, yeah, synth, pop, funk, yeah, you do this and that. And you're like, well, my album was recorded by Grammy-nominated producers that recorded Katy Perry and the Beastie Boys. And they're like, oh, yeah. You know, that little stuff there kind of matters. And it did work for me. I mean, I was doing really well. And you know how that if you ever watch the behind the music or the documentaries on the bands, that what defeats the band is the band itself. It was the same kind of problem, you know, not being linked up with like-minded people. But ultimately for me, it was when I mentioned my sister, when she passed away, it was super traumatic because she left this, you know, how someone dies matters. And she left this world in one of the worst ways you can imagine. So that kind of pumped the brakes up for me. I had to reevaluate what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and then kind of go inside and really find a way to be okay. And that's when I worked even more in the moving business there as a manager. I let all the things kind of quiet down, and then found that started to work for me. And so now, years later, I'm able to go, okay, well, I'm pretty good at Photoshop, and I can do this and I can do that. So I'll make my own flyers. I'll do my own things, and that's joyful. That's how I can get that little bit of creative outlet for the visual side, for the moving company, logo design, stuff like that. And then with music, hey, the moment I need music for a piece, I'm on that synthesizer, you know? And I still make music, but for the companies, what I mean, what you said kind of resonated with me because everything is true. It's not hyperbole. Everything you've done before prepares you for where you are right now. And you are the collection of all your old selves and all that you've learned.
Exactly. The question I sometimes ask to myself is like, okay, so did this all came together because of what I did, or did I do all that because of what I wanted to be?
Right.
So it's like, okay, I tried this, didn't, you know, I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not perfect
at anything.
No, that's not. I'm very, very good with people. So
sure,
skills wise, I don't think I'm the best programmer in the world. I don't think I'm the best project manager in the world. I don't think I'm, you know, the best. Absolutely not the best, you know, Photoshop person or, you know, a video editor or, you know, even a videographer or anything. I can make stuff look okay, you know, and I know that. I know my place, you know. What I can absolutely do is like finding the right people, connecting them, and then go from there, right? So
that's great.
All that, you know, so, but at the same time, I can, you know, I know enough of the space, even like the little things that I'm not 100% good at. Like you should see our logo, you know, like our graphic designer and videographer, Nick, he came up with that, you know, in within half a day. He did this. It looks perfect, right? We had a few like rounds before where we tried something, didn't really work out, and we showed it to other people. They didn't understand. Then he came up with this perfect. I could never do that. I'm, you know, I know my place. It's not me. That's why I hired him. What I hired him for.
Yeah,
right.
But that's a skill. Learning who and when to outsource something. Like you know where your lane is.
Right. I mean, I'm a friend of learn a skill good enough that you get by, just good enough, right? And then hire someone that is way better than you, where you still have enough knowledge to see if someone has skills or not, right? But the way they do that, the only thing where, you know, I'm sometimes, you know, I'm this like just good enough guy, right? Get it out, production, out. At the same time, I see it with a lot of creative people that they want it perfect.
That is
That's
guilty.
a big problem. That's a big problem if you're an entrepreneur because you don't get stuff done. That's the problem. And you have to find the fine line with motivating people to have a higher output at the expense of perfectness, right? In my opinion, there is no such thing. It's really good and it's, you know, beautiful, whatever, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It will never be, especially not for you that you made it, right? So I learned that very early that, you know, I wanted to have something perfect too, but I never got it right.
That's a tough,
you know, and I'm like, why would I do that? You know, I never get it right anyways. I waste so much time, you know, just good enough is just good enough. right?
That's what we called it. An old friend of mine, his name is Mike, back when I first started like kind of recording demos and things like that, teaching myself how to play instruments. We had a demo of songs. It was close enough. That's what we would say. Every time we did a take, I'm like, damn it, that's the 5th take. You know what? Close enough. And then you go on with it. And like you said, create content. That's how I learned to play music. I recorded over 200 songs that way, just getting them all close enough.
Get something done.
But that helps, you know, with going into the studio when you record. The thing is, that's where my problem was with music. Is it post-production? When it comes time after post-recording, when you're doing the production, man, it's hard for me to let things slide. It's like, ooh, that I could hear that bass string vibrate, or that note was a little off. And it took a whole lot, and you'll always hear them for the rest of my life. I hear that.
You do, and other people might not. Some other people will, but you know, like I said, what do you want to achieve, right? And that's like, oh, we have we have those discussions all the time. It's like, okay, that's a great idea, right? Great idea. You know that we have to be done by this afternoon, right? Yes. Do you think you can get it done? No, probably not. I was like, okay, maybe then that's overkill, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. You know, they're creatives, you know, way more than me. You know, I'm a little creative, but, you know, I know my lane. You know, I was like, okay, you better than me. I just have to remind people sometimes that, you know, you're better. I know you're better than me. I know it's going to turn out great, but maybe we don't have the time for that right now. Just get it out. Good enough, right? And then there's a difference between, you know, when we do content creation, for example, here, and we do a podcast, and it's not 100%, we're still learning, right? So it's good enough. We're still using it. We're going to get better, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get better 1% to the next time. We have better camera angles. We're more in focus. We're learning that, you know, we get rid of focus breathing and stuff like that. That's all part of the process. And that's fine, you know. We don't have to be perfect from the beginning, because if we wait until we're perfect, we're out of business already.
Yeah.
We died 3 times over.
That's so true.
And that's, you know, I think a lot of people get kind of like struck by, oh my God, it has to be perfect, and then never get anything out and hurting themselves. They would have maybe they would have made it to perfect at some point, but, you know, they gave up before that ever even happened, instead of like putting out, and then.
I'm glad we had this conversation, because with my particular business, that's not too much of an issue. I've got there's a structure to it. There's a payment structure. There's a way to do it and a way not to do it.
You have like systems in place and training.
Yeah, I've got my logo, the training, all that. That's that. So the flexibility and all that comes in dealing with job to job. Things are different. Customers getting name recognition, building it up. That's that. But where it comes to the other part of me, that creative part, I like to draw. I like to write screenplays and things. And man, I can't tell you how many unfinished drawings I have, how many unfinished stories and things. Exactly what you said. You know, I don't feel like it's going to be good enough, so I don't finish it, which sucks. And that was a problem when I played music as well. A lot of unfinished songs and demos, instead of just, you know, finishing it. You're always chasing your number one hit or your world famous art piece or whatever. And it's invaluable to keep going, because you'll find that great stuff if you keep going. You know, those cheesy memes where it's like what is it? Something about the worst story ever, or is like an unfinished page or some crap like that. But that's true. You know, you have to do it, or else you said you're dead already.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that to me, because that's like the 3rd time I heard it this week, and I do not believe that's a coincidence. So there's things to do.
Look, my wife is the creative one of us, right? She's super when she's sketching. She writes poems and all that kind of stuff. She wants to write a kid's book forever.
Do it.
Well, she's already done 80%, you know, and it just doesn't get it done. You know, because it's not perfect. And that's the thing. She's working on it forever, but, you know, and like she's like, well, yeah, this time I know I'm going to do it like you say, you know, just, you know, first book, get it out, you know, and she will eventually get it out. I'm pretty certain about that. But a lot of creatives have the same problem. It has to be perfect. It's not perfect enough for themselves, so they think it's not perfect enough for other people. And yeah, we have to, sometimes cheer them on, and say, hey, you know what? I like it. I think it's good enough. Get it out there.
Yeah, get it out.
That's a huge thing. It's like, yeah, big deal, big deal.
Well, we talked a lot about sales and networking and
Right.
about being creative and getting stuff done. So that's awesome. Anytime you want to talk about traveling, I'm down. Got stories for days. Next time I go to Germany, though, I'm going to have to go to the places that you drove the most to see if I have that problem myself.
All right. So I'm from Dortmund, right?
Yeah.
On the eastern tip of the Ruhr area. So the Ruhr is a river.
Yep.
It's called the Pod. All right.
Okay.
The whole area. It's about 60 cities, like very close together. It is the biggest metropolitan area in all of Europe.
Okay.
So I think it's 7 million people in the inner circle there, and if you call Rhine-Main area, that would include also Düsseldorf and Cologne. Biggest metropolitan area in Europe, 17 million people, right?
Gotcha.
So for Europe, that's a big city, right? And then you
Sure.
have all the outskirts and everything else.
Yeah.
So that is where I grew up. That is where I drove the most. But you can imagine traffic there is so bad at this point. With most, highways, inner city highways, and even like the ones that go a little bit like above and beyond, 2 lanes only. Like sometimes 3 lanes. Traffic is super bad. So when I was young, when I was driving, like like a crazy, whatever. So there was way less traffic. But nowadays, like you can barely drive anywhere, like especially not fast, right? But if you go around that kind of area, there's a lot of like roads where you can still go without speed limit. For now, because they're talking about putting it down to like a 120 or 130, what is basically the same as here. The thing is that at this point they have a very different problem because a gallon of gas right now is $10.
Yeah. All around the world, it's through the roof.
Well, I mean, it's still kind of cheap here compared to that. We're the cheapest, yes. But still pretty expensive here for us.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
I remember when I first came to Tennessee, it was like 180, 160 or something like that.
Wow.
So that's not that long ago. I remember during COVID times when everything picked back up and I started traveling, like I paid like as low as like 145. Not here in Tennessee. I lived in Chicago back then, but all over the country, right? I travel a lot too, mostly by car,
Mm-hmm.
like everything from like basically the triangle between like Chicago, down here and up like, what is it? Like, New York area, Pennsylvania, all that kind of stuff, that triangle, like I'm at home everywhere there, right? We're traveling. We have customers all over the place. Like I said, I drive a lot. I try not to drive so much anymore because just, time gets more and more valuable for me. I have to say that. Back in the days, I was like, yeah, you know what? Before COVID, I visited a lot of customers just out of the blue. I always said, hey, I was just in the neighborhood. Can I stop by? Or I just stopped in, COVID changed that. You couldn't do that anymore. You had to have an appointment and your temperature taken and, a mask, and only for a good reason they would let you in. So that kind of died out. But back in the days, I did that, and I went from like Charleston, West Virginia, where we lived back then, to like Michigan. That's like an 8-hour ride just to say, hey, I was just in the neighborhood. Can I drop by?
That's dedication.
So I did that. I did that a lot. And then, all the other customers, I had them and then I visit them. And then every time I go on a trip, I make sure that customers or prospects that are nearby, that I also visit them. Like I said, it's not like that anymore. Plus, I also don't need to do that anymore. I would still do it when I can, but don't really need it anymore because now I have the customer base is so big, and word of mouth like does the rest, right? Where it's like, okay, you know what? I need a robot programmer. I was like, well, I can't do that, but I know guy, Mike. He always has someone, so we go through that, and that's just awesome, But the driving you know, it's very different here than over there when it comes to cost. You know,
Oh yeah.
stuff is not as far apart, but you know, if you have to pay $100,
You also have much better public transportation, though. Trains,
yes,
anyway.
yes, I give you that. So I mean, there's a few cities here in the United States where I would say they're on par or better. You know, talking about New York and Chicago, for example.
Yeah.
But in generally speaking, you're right. The public transportation in Europe is just awesome.
Because I can be like, hey, I'm gonna go from Austria to Italy today.
Today,
Get on this train
and back if they're on time.
Yeah,
You know,
sure,
like
sure.
it's like the thing is this, like especially in Germany, you know, like there's nothing more reliable than the Deutsche Bahn, what is like the Amtrak of Germany, is late. You know,
it will be late.
It will be late. You know, just to wrap this up here, was very nice talking to you. So you tell us a little bit, where exactly is your business located and how do people reach you?
Yeah. So the company, we're in the 37405 zip code of Chattanooga. So right up there around the base of Signal Mountain. That's where the truck lot is, but that's not really, you know, it's not like you come in and book. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's over the phone or email. So we're going to come to you. So you can go to www.rivercitymovingtn, like Tennessee.com, and everything's on there.
Okay.
All of our social media links as well.
And then you also come to the people and evaluate their home and, get them a quote that's not over the phone or anything like that. You come there in person.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the home. A lot of that stuff can be handled over the phone because, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to go to everybody. But if the house is like 3,000 square feet or above, I mean, we're going to need to come take a look at that. I did one today. I was in Jasper, Tennessee, doing an on-site estimate. Got to meet all the dogs. It was great. But so rivercitymovingtn.com, that's how you're going to find us. And the Facebook, the Instagram, all that's on there.
All right. So yeah, everywhere there. That's great. Well, thank you very much for joining us here for episode 2 of our Marketing Main podcast, where we today not talk that much about marketing, but a lot of networking and a lot of like, you know, insights of like crazy life and everything. Thank you very much. And, you know, we will definitely keep you in mind once we have to move.
Yeah, please do, man. Hey, 10% off for anybody that hears this and calls the company.
All right. You have like a /Mapeus on your website that we can use?
All you got to do is tell me. I believe you.
All right. So all of Chattanooga. Now, if you have to move, go with Neil and let them know we sent you.
Thank you.
All right. That's a wrap.
He's like, bro.